As news filters in of Columbus' discovery of America, there is a corresponding scramble to send more English ships over to the Western Atlantic, for which the king commissioned an Italian, Giovanni Caboto, to lead. In 1497, in one of his letters, the king refers to this newly discovered land, which historians now believe was not a reference to Columbus's discovery. There is the suggestion that it was already a well-known secret that there was a land to the west and a huge cod fishery just offshore, probably the Grand Banks, which Cabot, or should I say Caboto, was instructed to formally claim for England. But why the foreigner and not one of their own Bristol seamen? John Cabot, or more properly Giovanni Caboto, was a Genoese Italian, born almost the same time as Christopher Columbus, and almost certainly in the same city. They probably knew each other from a young age. They were both acquainted with Amerigo Vespucci, the Florentine adventurer and pop travel writer who convinced Europe that the Americas were not in fact part of Asia, but a totally new continent, that is to say, what would turn out to be two new continents, which he termed the New World. All three men were students of Florentine sage Paolo dal Pozzo Toscanelli, the primary exponent of the westward expedition to India idea. Caboto and Columbus both ended up in the merchant business, and much of their dealings have parallels, with the duo ending up in Seville in the 1480s. There has been the suggestion that the Columbus brothers and Caboto were in cahoots, strapped for cash and looking for sponsors to achieve the same ends. Eventually, Caboto ended up in London, where he got the financial backing of powerful Italian bankers, while Columbus hustled the monarch of Spain, for a time even trying to sweet-talk the French and English monarchs too. We know that Columbus had himself been to Iceland in the 1470s, and given his obsession in a westward journey, it is quite certain that he heard tales of High Brazil, Viking sagas, and other stories of western lands, along with whispers of secret cod fisheries. He ended up setting out from the Iberian coast, while Caboto set sail from Bristol. Numerous financial documents have subsequently been unearthed referring to Caboto as the other Genoese, and the other Italian, and even the Venetian, his working citizenship, which means that some kind of professional relationship likely existed between the two. Archival Italian bankers' ledgers describe an investment paid to Caboto to locate the new land rather than a new land, which, given the rules of Italian grammar, implies that the bankers already knew it was there and were eager to participate in its exploitation. Caboto successfully reached the Newfoundland coast on his second expedition of 1497, but disappeared without a trace on his third voyage in 1498. We know he went ashore, which means that he would have actually set foot on American soil well before Columbus. This is because Columbus didn't arrive on the continental mainland until 1498, having only ever disembarked on the Caribbean islands of Santo Domingo, Cuba, and a couple of others until that time. A letter has also recently been discovered, written in 1497 by Bristol merchant John Day, and addressed to the Lord High Admiral Columbus himself, in which he discusses Cabot's recent trip to Newfoundland, referring in no uncertain terms to the fact that Bristol seamen, to use his phrase, found and discovered it in the past, with the rather impertinent addendum, "as your lordship well knows." Why was the haughty Columbus corresponding with Bristol merchants? We know that he visited Bristol as well as Iceland for trade purposes in the 1470s, prior to going to Seville. Maybe he was just re-evaluating his long-held beliefs that the Caribbean was actually part of Cathay. Or maybe he was, if you excuse the pun, just fishing for more information on Cabot's recent voyage. but the way in which Mr. Day dropped the mic on him is rather suspicious of a whole lot of behind-the-scenes skullduggery that is yet to see the light of day.